Hello. So we open the doors for the 2% CEO Habits of Profitability. We'll get started in just 1 minute. Hey, if you could, put the city that you're in so that I can gear this conversation to, your locality. All right, very good. Yep, come on in. So Ashley, how are you doing? So in the chat box, drop in the city that you're in, and that way I'll be able to gear the conversation for the group here. San Diego. Roseanne, welcome to the event. All right, Helen, Fairfax, not too far. I'm in Bethesda, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C. But if you hear an accent, I'm from Houston, right? Kind of ended up in D.C. by way of the Army a long time ago. Got Denver, fantastic. McLean. Yep, British Columbia. Brent, very, very good. Glad you're here. Olney, you're not too far away, Sylvia. Seattle. One of the great things about the way we work now with Zoom conferences and more webinars is it really is, sometimes a global, but definitely, a nationwide effort to get the word out for, how do we do better? So I'm gonna get cranking, right about now. And I got Lisa on with me from the IEA, International Executive Association. She's the one that opened the door and made all this possible. Lisa, if you want to jump in and say anything, just let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna kick things off. Okay, and for everyone, if you have a question or a comment that you want to make, then drop it into the chat box, and I'm going to try to fly this plane where we got my hands on different levers, so I can bring in your questions, your thoughts into the conversation here. This is somewhat of a monologue, right? Because there's just me here, and it's a webinar, so it's one direction like a radio show. But let's go ahead and step into it. To the theme here today. So my name is Kirk. I'm the CEO of Foresight, CFO. In addition to doing financial management at Foresight, we have 32 people across 3 different continents doing both growth CFO work, accounting, and then other parts of the business, to get the word out. But in addition to being the CEO of Foresight CFO, I teach financial management at Georgetown University with graduate students. So the habits of profitability, the 2% CEO habits of profitability, came out of roughly 30 years of doing this type of work, mostly as a full-time, financial expert inside a company, but more recently, for the last decade as a separate company as Foresight CFO. And we started noticing, when CEOs and their profit and loss managers develop certain habits, having clarity about the right options, having confidence about making the right decisions, and then driving the outcomes that you want out of your business. There's a lot more certainty around doing that with the habits. So a good starting point for us is to really discuss, why did you get into your business in the first place? What did you want to achieve from it? In some cases, CEOs are mountain climbers, right? They want to do something that hasn't been done. Maybe Elon Musk is an example of that. And many times, freedom fighters, right? CEOs want to have the financial resources to do what they want when they want. So you're getting that freedom, so you're not tied to that 9-to-5 job. Sometimes just doing something that matters. It could be in the community or nationwide, whatever makes sense to you. Some people, they get to a point in their career, can't get a job, right? For whatever reason, the job market's not picking them up, right? So there's all kinds of reasons. Some of us grow up in the family business, and son and daughter step into that business. So think for a minute about what your reason for what did you want out of your business when you decided to become the CEO. Okay, and if you want to drop it into the chat box, and I'll know who is in the audience and be able to pick up on that. So why did you start your business? So stepping forward, I want to create a feeling where this is what it's like when you're doing something that you really care about. You're moving into your why, and you have visibility. You can see what's going on inside your machine, right? You got the internal dashboards. You know what's going on with the fuel systems, the flight monitoring. You know how fast you're going. Plus, you're able to see beyond the internal machine. You can see into your environment, so you can see where you're headed and what's sneaking up on you, right? So this is the feeling when you're flying fast. This is what it's like to be a CEO of a company that's well-oiled and operating, effectively. This is what it's like to have the habits of profitability working in your favor, right? In this example, this is what happens when you don't have the habits working in your favor, right? It's something snuck up on you. Maybe you ran out of fuel. It's the same thing as running out of fuel is like running out of cash in your business, where the minute it happens, things drop really fast. So a key point is you can't get there alone. Just like the fighter jet pilot, the CEO who's moving fast, there's all kinds of people from the ground crew that get the plane ready to the folks that identified what targets matter and what kind of equipment you need to hit those targets. There's a lot that goes in. Even when you're flying fast, there's planes in different areas, making sure that the whole environment is playing out the way you expect it. So having the right wing person, it could be initially the trainers that teach the pilot how to fly to the pier, but the key thing is you can't get there. You can't get there alone. So, and this is nothing new. I mean, time tested. Going back to Napoleon Hill in 1929, he talked about having an advisory board that you can bounce ideas off, figure things out, so that the CEO is not, a lot of times being a CEO is isolating. And then all the way, the E-Myth, talking about where at the early stage of launching a business, you feel like you're wearing lots of different hats. So it's kind of that whirlwind that you talked about to, more for mature businesses, effective execution, the 4 disciplines, having the right guide, the right people, and using the numbers really cuts through a lot of the fog that's causing difficulty to be able to see, what needs to be done. So we talk about in the environment that we're in now, there's new challenges. The world, think about what things were like just last February, how different the world was just, a few months ago. We have recessions, we're dealing with a pandemic, there's social reform and justice issues that are forefront in our cities. The economic stimulus plan, payroll protection plan, is never before have we seen that kind of response to keep the economy, basically to fill the holes in the economy. Supply chains have been disrupted. In some cases, like the hospitality industry, you have companies literally dropping 70 to 90% of revenue in a very short time period, who are trying to adapt to a new marketplace. And conversely, you have some companies that, like there's an organic food delivery company where the demand for their product has increased 400% since just February. And their challenge is supply chain, right? So it's really a very different world from where we were just earlier this year as of January and February. So things are moving fast. I mean, how do you make sure employees stay healthy? How are your clients impacted, right? If your clients have the inability to pay, then how does that flow through? How's that going to impact you? And, potentially you need to pivot to clients who do have the funding to pay for your services and products. So the world is really moving fast, more than ever. And, time tested, even going back to, in 2008, plus working with hundreds of CEOs globally, using the 2% CEO habits of profitability will complement what you're an expert at as the CEO of your business. And the habits will give you clarity about what matters in your business. By using the numbers to evaluate different options, you have confidence in picking the right solution or options for your business. And then you're able to, through weekly KPI and monthly financials, you're following through to get the impact that you need to get. And it could be, implementing new ways to sell and deliver your marketplace, all the way to making sure the bottom line profitability, the cash, and even, short-term profitability and cash are important, but then even long-term still having a perspective on that, how do you maximize the value of your business so that when it's time to step back, you have succession options that make sense to you. So the get things going, I want to gear. We're going to go through 5 habits of profitability that are proven to achieve those things: clarity, confidence, and impact. And to make sure that I'm gearing the conversation the right way for the people in the room, I got a poll question, two poll questions. Right, and your responses on the poll questions are completely anonymous, right? But the first question is, what is your top line revenue number? And the second question is, this year with COVID, do you expect your revenue to increase, decrease, or stay about the same? I'll share numerically the responses with you, so we can all kind of see what's going on. And it'd be great, we're at 62%. It'd be great if we can get to 70% of respondents. So that, very good. Okay, so we're at 71%. I'm going to close the poll. So if you want to get your vote in, this is a chance to get it. Okay, so here we are. So roughly 60% of us have companies doing 0 to 5 million. So 40% are obviously greater. Nobody's in that 40 or greater category. So it's that 5 to 40 is where that other 40% is. So that's really helpful on the size here. And here's interesting is, 20% of us expect our business to increase. 45, almost half, expect it to decrease. And that's better than the overall economy. The overall economy is contracting. So that's good to know. And 35% about the same. And in this world, about the same is pretty dang good. Okay. Okay, so let's get it kind of picked up here. So the first habit, it's really the foundation. Making sure all it's like a checklist for that jet aircraft. Make sure that pre-flight checklist is let's make sure we have good numbers, right? And what we're talking about here is your accounting, your financial statements. Is the P&L complete? Are things categorized in the right area? If you're doing projects or you have key clients, are you getting reports for those projects or clients in a way that helps the managers make better decisions? So the best practice is monthly. You start out by teaching your P&L managers, but monthly look at the financials and see what the number story is, right? The number story is, am I over or under what I expected, right? And based on the variance, let that critical thinking, teach your managers, what is that, why am I over or under what I expected? And then teach them to propose, take ownership, to drive results. What action will they take to get the desired result? If things are lagging, then how do we pick it up? If things are ahead of what you expect, then how do we capitalize on a better environment? It's critical, the P&L statement, by another name, the income statement. If you're doing it on a cash basis, you want to look at doing it on an accrual basis, because the P&L statement is the only statement that allows you to engineer profitability, right? Where you can start to look at, what's driving, the gross profit all the way down to the bottom profit that you want. When it's done well, when you're using an accrual basis, where you're matching up your direct costs to each service or product line that you have, you're able to get more competitive pricing, right? And still, get more competitive pricing so you win the contracts and still have the target gross profit that you're looking for, because your managers are calibrating their spend for each unit of productivity. So using the numbers in establishing ownership of the P&L managers at each level will go a long way to helping you be having that foundation right. And kind of the next step, when you got your monthly financials, go the step beyond that, because the monthly financials, if you get them the week, 1 or 2 weeks after a month close, you're looking at roughly 10% of the year is gone before you have a chance to use the monthly financials like a scoreboard to make those adjustments with, and have insights on where do you need to take action. So if you take the next step and you add to the monthly financials that weekly KPI, key performance indicators, we have for each area of your business, your managers are getting the key performance indicators, not just information, but the things that they can actually act on. Now you're making decisions every week, right? And if there's a long red line somewhere, there's definitely a kink in the hose, and that's where, lean in by exception, what needs to be done to resolve the problem and get the water flowing through that hose again. And kind of to share experiences here, a lot of times people want the perfect dashboard, right? So they spend literally months, debating what's a good number, and then putting in the apps to get the good numbers. And in this day and age, it's easier to do that than in the past, but a lot of companies burn cycles debating. Best practice is, pick 1 or 2 numbers and, start working with it every week. Maybe start in a spreadsheet. And then when you really figure out what you make decisions on, implement that through a system, right? So that you're not delaying clarity, especially now, where a lot of businesses, the people who are able to are working remotely. So it's kind of hard to figure out what's going on. But if you have key performance indicators, and red, green, yellow, people are reporting based on that, the activities that they're actually doing every week. That lets management know where to lean in, and it helps the team member, your employees, know what do you really want from them, right? So that they have clarity. So habit 1, the first habit, is making sure you have good numbers, and then putting them to use all the way through weekly KPI and monthly financials. And in looking at the monthly financials is the only way to make sure that the financials are accurate. If you're not looking at the monthly, guarantee that things are being misclassified, and maybe some things are omitted. So the best practice is use them every month to have accurate financials and benefit from those insights. Okay, let's take another step here. So habit 1, using those monthly financials, making sure you have good numbers, right? Making decisions. So the next habit 2 is managing your cash flow. It's kind of like that plane. The minute you run out of cash, the machine's going to drop. If you have to choose between profit and cash, probably 9 times out of 10, taking the cash is beneficial, because I've never seen a business go out of business for the lack of profitability. It's when they run out of cash that things come to a stop real fast. Profitability is something you can fix. Run out of cash, if you don't have other sources of it, not so easy to fix if you're about to miss payroll. So managing cash is king. Sir Richard Branson talks about, never take your eyes off cash flow, because it's the lifeblood of the business, and that's very true. In the current environment, a lot of us are, we're negotiating different terms with our vendors. We're extending payments, payment terms for debt. Banks have already started to tighten access to, lines of credit. So if you have one, make sure you keep it stay in good standing with the covenants so that you keep your line of credit. In some situations, maybe even draw down the line of credit, because banks have been known on a portfolio basis to, even if you're in good standing, they can reduce your line of credit or close your line of credit with minimal notice. So in some cases, maybe you draw down the line and keep the cash somewhere else. So conserve cash. Good idea to keep paying bills, keep the pumps going, because do unto others as you want others to do unto you. But just more paying more attention to those type of things. There's two key practices to improve cash flow. One is, the first one is use the 12-week cash forecast, and this is where you got either by client or product line, depending on how your business is structured, what amount of money do you expect in from each line over the next 12 weeks, and put that against your key expenses going out. Payroll, it could be taxes, your key vendor payments. And the purpose of the 12-week cash forecast, you're really just matching up temporary timing differences, right? And to make sure that you hold on to the money you need, make sure your collection practices are good to make have the cash you need to make payroll and make other payments. So 12-week cash forecast, it's key to having that visibility to make good decisions about getting money in and expending money out. A lot of companies do this part well. The part that a lot of companies don't do well is, how do you fundamentally change from a negative cash flow situation to a positive cash flow situation? By this, what I mean is that traditionally businesses operate with negative cash flow. Like, for example, for whatever reason, traditionally when we work, it could be construction or whatever type of work it is, we do the work for a month, and then after that month is over, 1 or 2 weeks in the second month, we issue the bill to our client, and then for some reason, I never knew why, what the source is, that we put net 30, that you can pay us in 30 days. So now we're all the way into the third month. If the client pays us on time, it's 3 months from when we started doing the work to when the client actually pays us. It could be 3 or 4 months or more. Meanwhile, roughly every 2 weeks you got payroll going out. Every month you got rent coming up, and you got to service your debt payments, and plus anything else that's going on, right? So you get all these payments going out in this 3-month period, with the payment coming in at the very end. So that's negative cash. To the extent that you can get positive cash, get prepaid, as an example, then you have the cash you need to make payroll. As you do the work, that you get the cash received to pay for those expenses incurred as you do the work. One way to get insight into how do you improve from a negative cash flow to positive cash flow is measure the cash conversion cycle. And for some reason, very few financial people actually do this. They may talk about days sales outstanding, like what's the average number of days for your accounts receivable to come in, but they don't really get into the measure the actual billing cycle, accounts receivable, your days payable when you're paying vendors, to even if you have inventory, what is your inventory churn? In this example, we're comparing the current averages for the business on each of those categories with the target. And your targets you can set on, it can be based on best practices, it can be based on benchmarks for your industry, it can be based on your desired outcome. And you can play around with that to see, well, what if, what happens? That critical thinking, what happens if I bill faster? What happens when I collect faster? And you can see in this example, getting better at these 4 things, this client freed up just over $1 million of working capital. So that line of credit is less utilized. Oftentimes you can't improve 4 things at the same time, but maybe it's one thing. And in this 90-day sprint, we're going to improve this aspect of our cash conversion cycle for a desired measurable benefit. Best practice is to measure the cash conversion cycle at least twice a year, and then move the dial on the line item that's going to have the biggest impact to your cash flow. Not only does it help accelerate the cash in your business, but not more than dollar for dollar. When you reduce the working capital intensity of your business becomes more valuable, right? So that when it's time to step back, those 7 succession options are available to you. So habit 2, those are the 2 best practices on managing cash well. But habit 3 gets into a different area. If you think about it, as a CEO of a business, every day, every month, every year, there's so many different options on all the different ways that we can grow our business. And there's silver bullets that promise everything. So as a way to evaluate, which things really matter to us, which things are really going to move the dial, we found it useful to assess options and identify new options to grow the business using these 8 drivers as a lens, like for example, growth potential. If we have to pivot into a new marketplace because my current one shrunk up, I can evaluate, do I do more with existing customers, or do I need to go to a new market for new customers? Do I sell more of my existing products, or do I need to go to a new market where I have new products, right? So with growth potential, you can evaluate, where is the low-hanging fruit, and based on our marketplace, what do we need to do? But also owner's trap, right? Where owner's trap is where the business is dependent on the owner. If the owner goes on vacation for 2 weeks, steps away, the business slows and the owner's absence. And things like owner dependence occurs when most of the selling is done by the owner. Could be delivery. Most of the employees report to the owner. It creates, when the business is dependent on the owner, no matter how much capability we have, our wingspan is still finite. So there's a difference working in the business. If you are the business, you have the owner's trap, versus if the business is not dependent on you, your capability in the marketplace, what you can accomplish, has just been extended. Plus the business is more valuable when you want to step back, because typically when business owners step back from their business, when they sell it to a third party, they get entangled into an earnout where they're still responsible for doing the work, still responsible for outcome, but for 2.5 years, but don't have the authority. And a big part of the price for their business is tied to that earnout performance period. So it rarely ends up well for the business owner. Versus if the business is really going to operate independent of you, selling, delivering, employees, then there's a minimal transition period, maybe 3 to 6 months, where you're just passing the torch. Likewise, uniqueness, right? If you have something that's really unique, you get a price premium that goes back into the fuel to drive your business. And likewise, when you want to pass the torch, then you got something that is more likely to attract strategic buyers. So you get multiple offers at the same time. A recurring revenue, right? As something predictable, like telephone service is recurring revenue. You got some customer churn, but you got new customers. Without going through all 8, financial performance, dependencies on key customers, employees, suppliers. We talked about positive cash flow. This is a helpful lens to evaluate your growth options that you already thought about, and it's a helpful lens to evaluate growth options that you haven't thought about. What really matters? On average, we have a score that's based on a database of 34,000 private companies. On average, businesses that score 80 plus are 71% more valuable than the average company. And the average initial score is about 59. So there's good things in place, but there's a next step where we're able to improve performance today and tomorrow with that clarity. Another useful model is, even if you're working on foundation things, making sure that accounting operation is done well, to engineering profitability with a 12-month rolling forecast all the way through the summit, where you have 7 succession options available to you. Always, even at whatever stage in the business, if you're making decisions, if you know what the summit looks like, what those different succession options are, you can make decisions early that align you with having more options available versus less. So good idea to identify growth options with that strategically grow with an eye towards that ultimate exit. So that is the third habit, identifying the right growth options. And then habit 4, this is like having a flight plan. In habit 4 is, in the old world we call it budgeting, but budgeting sounds really useless. It sounds administrative. It doesn't sound like it's going to turn on the creative juice to get the result you want. So we talk about, create a financial roadmap, that 12-month rolling forecast so from this month all the way forward, what do I expect next month and the next month? So you develop with yourself and your profit and loss managers the ability to plan and execute across 12 months. And then once you get that baseline budget, don't stop there. Do the what if. What if we do this versus that? What financial outcome can we expect? What inputs go into those different scenarios? So do the what if, so that you're engineering profitability, right? A lot of times things are won at the margins. A few points on gains on gross profit that we can manage direct costs better, and a few points on managing overhead better can really improve your bottom line. And take a look at this example. You take the baseline company. If we increase price, so we're going to the clients that we can really help, our value proposition is stronger. And for example, just a small amount, a 1% increase in price with managing costs 1% better and managing overhead 1% better. And this example produces almost a 39% increase in profitability. So you get into, what if? What if your value proposition is so strong, 5% increase in price? Because you got better accounting, you got better numbers, you're more competitive, you're more selective about what market you're going after. So that budgeting going into the new year and then reforecasting at key points of the year, based on your business cycle, reforecast. What do we know now across the next 12 months? And then when something unexpected happens, like the COVID pandemic, good time to reforecast a couple, best case, worst case scenario, and make sure that you're ready with plan A and B to execute. So the habit, right? And the more consistently you do this, habit 4, creating that financial roadmap, the better your team members will get, where the margin of error or difference between your projection versus the actual result in your monthly financials, it starts to narrow. And you can see things proactively, where, if something's different than budget, you can see it before the year is over. So you still have time to make adjustments to land your plan where you want it from a top line, bottom line standpoint. So, when done well, it's really a creative, it's an empowering exercise to do, budgeting. Okay. So to bring things all the way around, the fifth habit is go beyond the numbers inside your company. Look, get the benchmarks, get the same industry benchmarks that banks use to, look at who's creditworthy and who's not, because invariably you're going to see opportunities. Where is my business above or below the average company in my industry? And even better, where do I stand in respect to the top 20 percentile in my industry? Because then by looking at the numbers toward where am I different, better or worse, then I can trigger critical thinking. Well, why? Right? And then from there, identify options for us. What are we going to do in the next 90-day sprint to drive a different outcome in the direction that we want to go? And in this example, this is an actual construction company in Maryland that, family-owned business, good size business, and they're doing about 1.5% to 2% profitability year over year. So they're pretty good. But when they found out that the average company in their area for construction in their industry was doing 5 times the profitability at 10%, then it's just it's like breaking that 4-minute mile. First there's silence, and then there's how, right? And some people may even question the validity of the data, but the data is valid. It's the same data that banks use. And then we can get on with never easy, but let's roll up our sleeves and figure out, well, how do we beat 10%, right? What work can we be doing given our expertise? And the same thing with the current ratio. The average company has $3.27 to cover every dollar of liability, and if we're doing one third of that, 1.29, well, what can we do? We're have more cash in the bank, right? So that we can sleep the night before payroll, right? So habit 5 is shaking up possibilities by getting your competitive benchmarks at least once a year. Don't overdo it. It's like watching the stock market every day. It'll drive you nuts. And the second way to get lift is, a lot of us kind of guess. We do the multiple on the back of an envelope, multiple of EBITDA to figure out the valuation of our business. Well, go beyond that. Actually do the work. Do the manager level valuation, and you'll see what's giving your business a lift and what's giving your business drag as far as the valuation. And what number are you looking for, right? When you step back, maybe you want to set up that multi-generational wealth, right? And what number does that have to be to achieve that? So I'm not saying go to Price Waterhouse and pay a bunch of money, but on a managerial level, do the discounted cash flow based on the future of your business. Compare that with the EBITDA multiple based on the historical performance of your business, and get an idea of what's really giving you lift, so that you can take a clear action item to the next 90-day sprint. What are you going to work on? What are you accountable for? So let me take a look here at some questions. Yes, so Gina says about the freedom fighter, what she is. Freedom fighters, mountain climbers, freedom fighters, and craft people just wanted, pretty much most times solopreneurs, very small companies. Craft people just want to do something better than anybody else has ever done. They get their why from that level of expertise. Freedom fighters, you want to earn the financial resources to do what you want when you want, right? But freedom, real freedom. Not easy to achieve, but it is doable. And then mountain climbers are just going for it, right? They want to become that $1 billion unicorn kind of stuff. So let me take a look. I'm going to answer some questions, the chat box, and we'll bring it home here. Okay, so let's see. Trying to interpret some questions. So here's a question from Paul about, I see a lot of smaller business where they don't have good numbers and don't have a dashboard yet they're easily available. Boy, I'd love to be in a room as a workshop to really get, why is that? Why don't, accounting systems are so powerful now. Even QuickBooks is powerful versus like NetSuite and Oracle, and user-friendly, right? You can turn them on and you can work from anywhere in the world and make sure that the numbers are right. Bookkeeping and accounting is one of the easiest things to outsource. A little bit of a hassle early stage to set up the workflows and set up good controls and internal controls so that your assets are protected. But if you're a business owner and you're still plugging away at invoices and collections, you might want to think about what are the benefits of having somebody else do that. Accounting's relatively easy to outsource. And then dashboards, most systems have some kind of dashboard that you can pull into it. But I'm going to agree with Paul that to a large extent, relatively easy, but underutilized and so powerful. I mean, for us, weekly KPI changed our life. And for so long, I didn't want to do it because it was going to take work to put it in place. I thought, we got monthly financials. I'm a growth CFO. We can go with the monthly financials. And kind of after a painful year in some areas, learned that the weekly KPI changed all. It's so easy making a decision when you have the numbers. If there's a long red line and we're 3 weeks into the same red line, it's time to circle the wagons, do a deep dive, find out what's going on, and fix it. So Rosanna, let me see if I can get your question out. I want to do a better job than my boss did and felt I could grow to light. I cannot see this. I'd love to hear. Rosanna, maybe you and I could unpack your question offline to make sure I really understand what you're looking for. But there's something about loving to hear anyone listening to use a KPI dashboard. The one that I showed was from a client, and it really gets in. The great things about dashboards in this day and age is you can really you can make them person specific, right? Where based on their responsibilities, your managers, sales, operations, support services are able to not just numbers for numbers' sake, but what can they act on? And if there's something that's critical for the business, and there's a kink in the hose and the water's not getting through, you want to see that at the first moment it happens. So some of the KPIs are near real time, right? At least weekly. But if I didn't answer your question, Rosea, just let me know. We can hop on a call and kind of talk through it here. So let's see here. So I'm gonna bring it right home. So that the habits are time tested. There's literally hundreds of CEOs, different industries, everything from tech companies, construction companies, education companies, and a Himalayan salt company in Pakistan. The habits are adaptable to your business, how you work, and at different lifestyles, there's different finer points that match a business at each part of the life cycle, not lifestyles, life cycle. So, but the core, those 5 habits, and I'm going to send the slide decks out to you so you can figure out how to start to make these yours. But they are a perfect complement to what CEOs are really good at. Why you went in business, if you're confident with the numbers, you're making decisions on the front end about what options are right for us, and you're using the numbers to follow through. If something's going sideways, you can see it early and act on it. So that the habits, make sure you have good numbers, manage cash well, identify the right growth options, and then that financial roadmap, and shaking up possibilities with the competitive benchmarks using the same database that makes use and the valuation. It will go a long ways to giving you lift and quite frankly peace of mind. You can see where things are at. This type of work it's growth CFO work. I mean, how do you use the numbers to look forward based on where we're coming from, not just numerically, but from a business, the marketplace. I mean, this is growth CFO work. Definitely not tax prep. That's get your CPA to do tax preps and audit. That's a very task-oriented set of work, and the accounting as well. You can get the bills out accurately, cash in, vendors paid, payroll, financial statements. Accounting is vital. It's the foundation in that pyramid we looked at. But it's only going to get you that far. It's not going to get you into the what if and greater possibilities. So the role there is that growth CFO is having the lean person at your side. So at Foresight, we help CEOs, win new customers, keep the customers they have the right people, access the capital at favorable terms, and then achieving through these methods, what is top percentile in our industry and how do we get there, right? And we do this through growth CFO and accounting services. We're able to beat what a full-time CFO does, because at best a full-time CFO knows what they know. They don't know what we embody into our method, the impact financial management, and most full-time CFOs don't have the same level of accountability where it's identify objectives and deliver in 90-day sprints. So what we drive for is measurable outcomes, right? There's an investment in growth CFO work, and then the outcome should be something like this, based depending on what size your company is. Your measurable increase in profitability, accelerating cash, and then we should be able to stand firm on what the incremental value of our business is, because we're working together. So if you're interested in kind of unpacking this, going beyond the webinar to find out, what is your business situation? How do you increase profitability and maximize the value of your business? Literally shoot me an email, and I'm gonna send you back a proposal on a date and time that we can meet, either the same day or next day, and let's really talk about it. So that's the event here. Let me see if there's any questions. So okay, there's chat questions. See here. Yeah. So Ashley, I got a question from Ash about where can we get the benchmarks. So a couple places. A lot of libraries will access different benchmark databases. So you can go to your local library, see what they have. If you don't find something easy, literally email me, because your bank, the tools your bank has, we have. And so we subscribe to the same database that banks use to do competitive benchmarks for your industry. So if the public sources don't have it, email me, Ashley, and I'll be glad to get it. Even email me before you do a longer search. And to answer your question, Lori, yes, I'm going to send out the slides and contact information. So definitely contact me, and let's talk about what's going on to drive. What do you want out of your business, and where are we at, and how do we get there, kind of thing. So we're at time. I thank you very much for jumping in. The habits of profitability are proven. If you don't believe me, challenge me on it. I'll show you how it applies to any business. At this point, it's been more 100 plus companies. So, and talk to you soon.